Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of my series, Breaking Free, where I showcase one of my pain coaching clients that I'm currently working with as I guide them through recovery from CRPS. This client's name is Karen, and she is joined by her lovely husband, Kenneth. This couple is such a joy to work with, and I have been so encouraged by Karen's progress through our time together that I felt compelled to share it with you. Karen's journey with pain began 4 to 5 years ago, and throughout her journey, she has seen countless specialists. She has had her pain blamed on various things, including her pudendal nerve, and she was kind of at a loss when she first met me. Karen is one of several of my clients that, when I met them, were bedbound, barely getting out of bed during the day for even just small amounts of time, like for their nightly hygiene routine, and was feeling very discouraged when she met me. In fact, in the beginning, it was even hard for her to talk to me for more than 10 minutes. So, what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to share a bit of Karen's first visit with me, first or second, and then I'm going to share a bit of her most recent visit with me. On top of that, I'm going to show you some videos of her improvement. So she's gone from getting out of bed maybe once a day for several minutes at the most to getting out of bed, making her own coffee, reading some scripture. Even recently, she got in the car and drove just a little bit. She's going for daily walks and is now working with an in-home physical therapist. So in just 11 weeks, Karen has gone from essentially bedbound to toying with the idea of actual freedom and function from her pain. So I'm very excited to bring this to you. I'm very excited to share it with you. Kenneth, her husband, was actually one who encouraged me to share this video in the hopes that it would help someone else who's feeling discouraged or is stuck in bed or has been suffering for several years. Oftentimes, the things that we are blaming our pain on, like our nerves or some sort of dysfunction with our body, are the very things that are keeping us trapped. And what I mean by that is a lot of times our pain is much more than just physical. A lot of times there's mental and emotional things we need to talk about and address in order to start moving on and moving away from this pain condition. That was true for me. That's true for a lot of my clients. And that's why I want to bring you this video. If this video is interesting to you, if you feel like pain coaching is something that could help you, like it has helped these people here, then you are more than welcome to book a free consult with me for pain coaching by using the link in the description down below. Additionally, I also have an 8-week self-guided online course that you can get started on right now without having to wait for me at all by also visiting the link down below. That course is 10 years of my knowledge all in one place, and it is everything that I know about CRPS that I wish I knew 10 years ago when I was first diagnosed, and I am now almost 8 years pain-free. So, that being said, without further ado, I'm going to allow you to watch these sessions with Karen and her husband Kenneth and get an idea of kind of how the progression looks when it comes to pain coaching. There is no case that is too complex. There is no case that intimidates me. In fact, I get excited for those of you that are suffering more because I am so enthusiastic about helping each and every person suffering in the same way that I did when I was first diagnosed a little over 10 years ago. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy this episode, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.
I'm a little bit worried about, or this condition, this clenching, this tension, this whatever in my, I'm it seems to get worse, but I'm not imagining it. And even when I wake up, I mean, we, mm, I've been that way the whole night, and I can't. It's hard for me to do anything to get it to release. Once I do, once I'm awake or even during the day. So I don't know where do we need to start? I don't know.
Well, first of all, let's start with the fact that, I gave you a few assignments here and you did amazing. You not only did you get them done, you went above and beyond, because standing up certainly wasn't on the assignment, right, for 15 minutes. And talking to Lori for 15 minutes, that's triple the time. Visiting with Connie, you got that. Um, you listened to two church songs. That's amazing. So I mean, you've done fantastic this last week. So I think starting with recognizing that is really good. Additionally, where do you think tension in the muscles, can have many reasons. I notice that when we broach or talk about certain subjects or think about certain things, we have more tension. So, what kind of things do you think is leading to this tension now or in the last week?
Well, I guess just because everything I do, causes pain, but and I don't, it's hard not having any relief, you know. And I used to could, you know, oh, let me go lay down and things would get better. And but that's probably not been good for my body, but I don't know what else to do to, you know. So I don't know. My thought process is I'm sorry if I can't keep a, I can't, sometimes I can't remember what we started, why we started.
Okay, we were talking about this tension, where we think this tension's coming from.
Anxiety
About what?
about my pain. And I just, how am I gonna, how am I gonna get better? I don't, I listened to 15 minutes of your, Kenneth got your, Kenneth is at level two?
Yeah, the module two.
Module two. Listen to 15 minutes. And even that, oh, wait. I guess because you were talking really fast and and I can't totally look at the screen all the time because that's work too. That is work. And I'm trying to understand, I don't want to be doing something that's going to make me worse, but it's like, uh,
So, you asked the question, how am I going to get better? Well, the answer is exactly what you're doing. You've been taking some small steps here. Listening to 15 minutes is pretty good. It's pretty good. That's a lot of information. It's a lot coming at you at once. listening to that on top of everything else you did this week is pretty good. And I would say this. Of course, we know this isn't going to be like that and everything's good. I wish it was. That'd be awesome. I'd go around snapping my fingers for everybody, but you know, this is visit 4 and we're getting up, we're walking around, we're standing up, we're calling friends, we're getting excited for the birthday party. This is kind of what the path looks like. There's no quick fix. It's basically saying, I realize this isn't going to get better if I just keep doing exactly what I've been doing. So I'm going to try these options, which you are, and you're doing great. And slowly but surely, we'll get our pain down to lower levels. And then eventually, someday, there's the possibility of being out of pain. All right. How's it going? I've heard some awesome updates about you,
Yeah.
but you tell me.
Um, I've gone a bit past my goals, and let's see. I'm trying to think of what. Okay, the making my coffee, I think I did it 4 times,
Wow.
and um, then
Your afternoon snack.
and then was it yesterday? Did I do mine? Yeah, yesterday. Kenneth took a nap, and so I got up during his nap and got my own afternoon snack.
Yeah.
So I haven't done that. So and
What about walking?
yeah, I walked quite a bit, at least twice a day, sometimes more. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
How do you
and
feel about that?
and I've gotten away from the walker except for at night when I take the ketamine,
Yeah.
because I wake up groggy from that. So
Yeah.
but other than that, I'm walking without the walker and stuff. So
Wow. Yeah, you definitely went past your goals. That's amazing. How do you feel about that?
good, really,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Love it. I love it. And
yeah.
and yeah, I feel like I see the personality and the spark coming back, and I just saw you have a big smile, so that's amazing. And yeah, I feel like even your speech is amazing. Like this is wonderful.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm feeling better about myself, and oh, and you know, I'm about halfway through that book. What you say when you talk to yourself,
Yeah, that's right.
is that what it's
Mhm.
called? And understand, about the imprint that we're given, even before we're we know what's what, I mean, what's said about us, you know, what our childhood, you know,
Yeah.
formed in us, or what, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And anyway, so that was good to know. Just because now I can be careful, and what I say about myself, and be positive, and you know um
Yeah.
anyway, so I'm glad about that. My caregiver, she's like 21 or 20 21 or 22, and her and her husband have read through that, I guess, and she recommended it. So um, I'm glad.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And to tie it back to something that's very important to you guys too is if you think about even the Bible says that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
as he thinketh, so he is, right? And so
Yeah.
yeah, with our thoughts we make the world. So I think that that's a wonderful, wonderful thing that she recommended that.
Yeah. And even in the Bible, the 10 Commandments, I mean, there's good rules. There's rules that we have to have
Mhm.
about, how to treat each other, how to, um, you know, how do we act toward God? How do we treat our fellow men? And, rules that we follow, um,
Yeah.
on that. And then, um, the Bible gives us plenty of, be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, be compassionate, gives us in the New Testament all these, these are in order to be Christ like, we um, need to incorporate those things, the good things into our
Yeah.
lives, the positives in the,
Yeah.
so um, anyway.
Yeah. And and forgiveness too, not only forgiving others but ourselves. And
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm thrilled. I've been thrilled with all the updates I've been seeing, and I'm really excited. And now I'm curious, with what we're doing, what's your plan for the next week? What do you think you're gonna strive for?
Well, I'm gonna try to. We found this little step thing that'll help me get from where you go out outside our patio door, and then you step down. We found this. I had this little step thing that's halfway down, so we're gonna use that, and so I can learn to get down and be able to get on the go around the patio and the pool and maybe into the grass and just walk outside a little bit. Um,
Yeah,
you know, so
sounds wonderful.
yeah,
I think that's an awesome overarching goal for the week from a functional standpoint and getting outside standpoint. I think that'll be great. And then, I'm thinking with a lot of the improvements that we're having and stuff, I'm wondering, you know, it's one thing I have clients do sometimes is kind of design what they feel like would be a perfect day for them with where the level that they're at. And so, one thing to consider is possibly sitting down and brainstorming, what would be the very like if you could imagine the perfect day right now, would it start off with you making coffee and then, drinking it outside or, uh and then from there doing some reading, you know what I mean? Like kind of just a structured day that would kind of mimic what we're striving for eventually, which is, independence and being able to go and do whatever you wish, and that could look like driving to get some coffee and having some reading at the coffee shop, not for sure, but an option, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so are you asking me to do something this week
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
reference?
And I would say the only thing I'm asking is just imagine or possibly write down what a perfect day could look like that we could possibly repeat. My perfect day might be sitting on a beach in Maui or something like that, but that's not doable, right? So, it should be a day that if we repeat it over and over again, eventually we will be in a position
we want to be in the future, right? If I was on the beach in Maui over and over again, my life would probably fall apart here or back in the States. Um,
Yeah.
but if I every day was getting up and making my coffee and spending some time reading to learn and feed my brain, and then on top of it I was doing a few walks, and then in the afternoon I made my snack, and then at night I did my bathroom routine. That kind of day over and over again gets us to a great place a month from now, right?
Okay.
So, what kind of things do you think would be in your perfect day if you don't have to set it up now, but just some ideas.
Yeah. Well, what I was doing previously um, was I would get up, um, get dressed, of course,
Yeah.
and probably make my coffee. Um, and then I always had my quiet time um, when, first thing. Um, and I have this big study Bible, which I can't even carry now because
Mm.
it's so heavy. But I would get in a chair and sit with my study Bible and um, just I'm a teacher at heart. That's one of my spiritual gifts,
Yeah.
and so I do a lot of intensive Bible study, on my own. I just enjoy it. But just to be able to, um, eventually, right now I'm having to, do it audio. I listen to
Sure.
audio Bible, and but not really able to write much down at the same time and stuff. So I guess eventually um, be able to have some sort of a quiet time that I could work into um, a morning routine. Um,
Yeah.
um, let's see, what else were we talking about? Oh,
Can I interject something
what?
real quick?
What?
When you're talking about quiet time, why don't you set a goal of like reading a half a psalm or one psalm?
Hmm.
You know, like instead of intense Bible study, thinking about trying to eat the whole elephant, if you will.
Yeah.
Just
Hmm.
do one little snippet, like
Hmm.
read a psalm that day, and read a proverb, maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, of actual reading.
Yeah, of actual
Yeah.
reading, or maybe it may be 3 verses. Who knows?
Yeah.
But just something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll write that down.
Yeah. Because I remember stuff I'm a visual. I love visual. That's the best way to learn. And I'm also creative in the arts and other things like that. So I'm visual.
Yeah.
And so if I'm going to memorize the word or it's going to, you know, get in here and stay,
Yeah.
then I like to see it. I like to see it, not just hear it, but see it. And then,
Absolutely.
because kids learn, we learn, they learn in all different ways, and I'm a
Yeah.
visual learner.
Yeah. I'd love to tap into that. I
Yeah.
I think so. If I look at like a structure, right? So we wake up, we get dressed, we get our coffee going, and then we sit down and we potentially read just a little bit, as Kenneth said, as a start, and that's the beginning of our quote unquote perfect day right now. And then from there, what would you do after that? Any ideas?
Mm. Um, I don't know. I guess I used to. I guess I used to like do laundry or um it's funny because it's been so long since I've had a quote regular day that I
Uh-huh.
don't totally remember what it was like. But
Yeah.
um I enjoy working around the house, but I also enjoy getting out and you know uh, I don't know what the at some point you know we talked about yesterday, Kenneth and I was talking about um, being able to eventually drive, but
Hmm.
that there's some steps that you got to get to before you can just that I would be able to get in the car and drive somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. What
So
steps? That like steps, like physical steps, or steps like things we need to be able
um
to achieve?
well, physically, because to be able to sit in the car, you
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
and long enough to you know uh, to be able to drive somewhere and uh, physically be able to
Yeah. I understand. Okay.
I don't know.
Can I interject something?
Yeah.
Chase, one thing we were talking about, I was telling her that not to grow frustrated because you can't do something at first,
Hmm.
like, learning to ride your bicycle. First time somebody pushes you, you go 10 feet and you fall, then you go 20 and so on and so forth. I
Yeah.
told her, I said, as you regain your skill sets, don't get frustrated because you're not at a 10. Be joyful that you're at a 1 this week. Next week you're at a 2, and
Yeah.
look at those as being wins. So I had a vision of just then when she was talking about the car, because she can't sit right now for long periods of time. But maybe it's just um, starting the car up,
Yeah.
getting your music on, getting the AC set. If you can, pull out of the garage onto the driveway, maybe 10 or 15 feet, and
Yeah.
then slowly back up. And then expand on that to where eventually you feel comfortable, getting out on the road. I envision her, we have a real quiet neighborhood. So I envision her, kind of driving around the neighborhood, making turns, getting comfortable, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's exactly right. You would, Karen, maybe so your perfect day is looking like so far we got coffee, get up, get dressed, as you said, get our coffee going, do just a little bit of reading, even if it's a couple sentences, right? And then potentially there was a few things that stood out to me there. You mentioned laundry. So like breaking that down, you could just have a few articles of clothing out. Maybe Kenneth sets a few things out and you fold, 6 items. And that's like a small training towards, doing that part of that household task, right? Um, and then, if the car is a goal, maybe on one of those days, a couple times a week, you go out and even just get into the car and, turn on the music, as Kenneth mentioned, that could be a start. And I have Cheryl, one of the individuals in my group, driving was a huge goal for her. And that was actually where we started too, is we started with just getting in the car and pressing in the brake and turning it on, and then listening, putting a little bit of music on for a bit, and then hopping back out.
Could she sit? Could she sit already?
So she could sit, for extended periods of time, but she had pain in her foot and her leg, so it wasn't totally comfortable. And she had a lot of nervousness because it had been a while since she drove. And so it took us many weeks to even get her to go and drive the car around like a parking lot because of that nervousness.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the same no matter where someone's at functionally, the process is still going to be the same, and we do it in small steps. Instead of trying to drive 10 miles to, you know, Torchy's Tacos or something, right? We're just gonna drive down the driveway or do a loop around our neighborhood, and that's it, for one day.
Yeah. Okay.
So that would be the starting point. So now we're kind of hashing out like, okay, here are things that you want to do when you start to be able to, pretty soon you'll have total freedom over your day. There's when Kenneth was talking about how you push someone on the bike, in the beginning and you go 5-10 feet and you fall over, that's totally true. And then maybe you make it 25 feet and you fall over, also true. But then what happens once you eventually get the groove of it? Then it's just like you can just ride the bike.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the beginning, these small steps are very necessary. 3 sentences, just turning the car on, only 5 items of clothing. We take those small steps, but then eventually, and you're kind of seeing it now with how wonderful this week was, eventually the momentum is going to gain, and each subsequent week we'll be doing a little bit more and a little bit more. And it'll feel, I mean, shoot, this last week and what you told me today, that's like you doubled the goal that we set.
Yeah.
200%. That's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So tell him about the undergarments, because you've had undergarments on a couple of times. And you hadn't been able to wear that.
Oh,
Wow.
I haven't been wearing underwear and stuff. So I've been wearing what do you call it? Undershirts, to go under my dress, and then I've been wearing undies, which they're still pretty tight feeling, and it's not comfortable, but I'm trying to do it some and kind of get used to that feeling. And so I'm wondering, I guess because I would have a lot of anxiety like the other lady you were talking about driving, if I should master what I do at home first before I think about getting out. But I could, like you say, go out and at least
Start.
Yeah, but wouldn't I need to kind of practice sitting somehow first before I would go out to the car and try to sit? You know what I mean?
You can sit in a chair at home, or you can sit in a chair inside the car. It's a chair, it's a chair.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you could even sit in the car, door open, start the car, leave it run for 30 seconds, turn it off, go inside.
Oh, you mean without sitting in it?
Well, you could sit. Can you sit for 30 seconds?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, or 10 seconds. You could sit in it for 10 seconds, not even start it, and then hop back out, you know? That's a way to practice. And that not only is it practicing that, but you're practicing the process of, uh grabbing onto something, sitting down into the car, take a breath, and then hop back out and go inside. That's a task that takes maybe in total a minute, right, of your day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get a little bit of exercise, and you start to, the only way that we get over something that we have anxiety about or fear about is we do it, right? I think I've used the bungee jumping analogy, but
Oh,
if I'm ever going to get over my fear of bungee jumping, I can't do that by not bungee jumping. I have to
yeah.
go jump.
Yeah.
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 And so that could be one task, and maybe we only try that 2 times this week, going to sit in the car. No problem.
Okay. So you want us to write that down?
So yeah, so what I'd like you to do is, between now and then, over the next 2 days, let's say, or maybe today if you have the energy, but you and Kenneth brainstorm, what can be on this quote unquote perfect day. And this is a day that you both enjoy and is also moving you closer to, the Karen we want to see by the time this pain is going away almost completely, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so that what's cool about that is you get a day that you feel like you have control over. You're grabbing the reins in this situation. And not only that, but you can see in real time, feeling like you're making progress, just like you did this last week. But this progress has direction because we need a goal, something to aim at, and then we can organize our life around that goal. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I have to take at least currently, I'll do something and then I'll come and take a break, and then, you know, 30 minutes later, well, like I took a shower this morning at 6, and because I try to do it when I first get up, and then I recouped for a while, and then at 8, well, that involved also getting dressed and, all that,
Yeah.
and then I recouped, and then I went in the kitchen, and I think it was like 8 o'clock, and I made my coffee, and Kenneth was just getting up. So was I in there making my coffee when we woke up? Yes.
Yeah, you were in there.
Yes. Okay. And I was actually able to stay in there for a good bit longer than just making my coffee, because he was in there. And so we talked a little bit, and, so
Tell him what you were doing when you weren't making your coffee.
what?
Tell him. You don't remember?
Uh-uh.
You were organizing the shelves in the.
Oh.
She's organizing the cabinets.
Oh my gosh. Everything. It needs me back.
Yeah.
It needs my organizational abilities.
You know what? Karen, we all need you back. You have a bunch of unique perspectives and talents that the world really values. And so, seeing you up and about and stuff, I know it's making Kenneth super excited. It's making me super excited. Um, and yeah, it's not just the cabinets that need you back. It's all of us. We're really thrilled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I told you before, I find myself on the way to the kitchen or coming back, I, end up doing more, like trying to put stuff back in the place that I used to keep it or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And so anyway,
Yeah.
it gives me the want to, I guess, you know, I want to be able
Yeah.
to do that on to a greater extent, you know. So
Yeah. And that's that's the beauty of the perfect day, like designing it, because what happens is the perfect day, it shouldn't be like super rigid in structure. Like it should be a general outline.
yeah.
And that'll allow for time for the inspiration you get when you're, doing some of these things, right? Whether it's making coffee and noticing the shelves need, some organization, or, another thing that you might notice.
And then you get distracted from what you were doing.
Exactly.
And you get off task and do something else. But anyway,
Yeah,
so
exactly right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we've talked a lot more like when he's home on the weekend. And I think did yesterday we ate 3 meals together. Yeah, and we talked a good bit during those times, you know, more than I've been able to, you know, before. So
Yeah. So you're getting back to things you love. You and Kenneth are feeling closer. And family's noticing improvements.
yeah.
So I love it. I'm pretty proud of you, Karen. Are you proud of yourself?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
You should be. Yeah.
And I aspire, you know, I'm enjoying kind of aspiring to different things, you know.
Yeah.
So
You mentioned you have a creative side. What how do you like to tap into that?
um well, you know, I think it might look a little bit different because I used to quilt. And that's one of the times when I noticed that something was started being, you know, wrong or whatever, physical ailment, because I needed the driving and the quilting. I needed pads to sit on, you know, in order to be able to keep doing the quilting or doing the driving or sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
So I forgot what I was talking about.
What does the creative side of you look like now?
Oh, I mean, I with one of my granddaughters, she likes art. Okay, she's a 11-year-old. She's and so I used to do little crafty stuff, you know, with her. And when she would come over, and haven't, you know, been able to do that for a long time, but she'd been taking art classes through her homeschool co-op type group, you know. And so she's had, like, you know, she does her assignments, and then they have an art show kind of at the end, that, you know, eventually, I could go to if grandparents can go to things like that, and but just to be able to, do a simple thing with her would be a creative thing, and that would mean a lot more to me. It means a lot more when you're doing it with or for someone else, which each of my quilts was for someone else, It was, I could show you, and they were all like lap size, not giant things.
Sure.
But I would rather, do something with her or something, So, maybe I could eventually think of, something I could do with her, or I don't know. I don't know what that would look like. I hadn't thought that out enough to.
Sure. I think brainstorming that would be a good idea. And I think that's a great extrinsic motivator too. To have this idea of like, I want to get to a place where we can sit down and do those crafts just like we used to, or I can make something for her. And so, I think that's perfect. And the great thing about creativity is it brings us a lot of joy when we're making it. We're distracted in the moment. When we give it to someone else, we feel really good about making their day. And if you can do it with her, even better. But that's so, you and Kenneth, another thing to brainstorm is, okay, if that's a goal eventually, how do we start to move closer to that? Like, what do we do? Are we standing and working on a craft of some sort? Are we doing a small craft to say to her, like, hey, I'm working on it so we can do this a little bit longer, again. Whatever you think. Just in the same way that you got excited to give the history book to your grandson.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get excited about some of these other things too. And you and Kenneth know on a deeper level, the types of things that bring you joy. And I think that's why this assignment of, perfect day is a great idea. And remember, it's just an outline. So, just a few staple things. And then in there, you can find inspiration throughout each day to make them just a little bit varied. Okay. That'll be the assignment this week. I think it's a fun one.
Okay.
Nice.
So you mean what all we've written down?
Yep. What you've written down, you can work on doing that. And then as you brainstorm, like maybe all that we've written down so far with get up, get dressed, have some coffee, potentially do some reading, and then, an option between, fold a few articles of clothing, maybe 5, and then, or, go sit in the car for 10 to 20 seconds. Maybe that gets you to, just around noon.
Yeah.
And then at that point you and Kenneth can brainstorm about what the rest of the day could look like. And with this, be kind to yourself. You're not a slave to this day. Okay. So, some days you might make it, just 3 p.m. doing some different light activities. And other days you might get to 11 a.m. and need to take a break. And that's fine.
Yeah. In 5 of those days, 4 of those days I have a caregiver, and of course Kenneth's at work and stuff. So he's not in the picture,
Yeah.
So, but on the weekend, but my caregiver would be, she's the one that suggested the book, and she would help me if I needed, you know,
Absolutely.
help. So
Yeah.
if I wanted her to kind of go out there in the garage with me and, you know, start the car or whatever. So we'd have to figure that out. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure she'd be happy to help you with this
yeah.
perfect day idea.
Yeah. Kenneth will have to help me remember, like with I had I can't even remember, electric ignition. What do you call those? Where
Oh, key fob.
Oh, a key fob
Yeah.
where you just, I don't even remember.
Yeah, you just press that button. The key fob's with you, and you press the button, and it starts.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it'll be like me learning to drive again. I mean, you know, like a teenager or something.
Yeah. How exciting.
Yeah. So anyway.
Very cool.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's a perfect plan for our week ahead. And I'm just thrilled this week. I think this is the start of my week. I just consider this well, it's Monday for me. So yeah, the start of my week. And this is the perfect way to start it, you know, seeing you excited and ready to take on the tasks ahead. So this will be great.
Okay.
All right. You have any questions or concerns or mean comments?
Not that I can think of. He's my person. Oh, you have something?
Yeah. Hey, Chase, I mean, you can see where she's come in the last 6 weeks. I was just looking over at the clock, and it's 2:42. And, you know, 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, I mean, you'd have the session, but, you know, she was at about 18, 19 minutes, she was finished. And you kept her going and, you know, kept her moving and stuff. But if this would, if this session today would help anybody, I think Karen would be okay with him sharing it. It would help if it would help someone. So just, you know, feel free to share that if you think it'll help someone.
Well, I love that, and thank you so much. And you know, I think there's people who have seen you, Karen, in my online course, and we had one of our earlier sessions on there, and so maybe I'll consider kind of splicing them together, you know, to show, you know, the progress, because you know, Kenneth's right. We've come from, you know, our first 10 minutes of talking being pretty tough, and then kind of just trying to grit a little bit more time to like we're wrapping up and I feel like you could keep going. Right. I feel like it'd be no problem. And so, you know, I think that's a great idea, Kenneth. And actually, you know, maybe I'll text you about it, but it might be cool if I get it set up and I get it put online, if you just share it into the Facebook group and say, hey,
Yeah.
this is my wife, and you know, she's been working with Chase and is really, really improving. That'd be awesome. I think people would love to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just let me know when you send it what I need to do. We'll do that.
Awesome. I'll edit it up and maybe have a little bit of you walking around, Karen. I've seen some cool videos of you doing that. That's pretty triumphant, and I think we'll get some tears from some people being happy for you. And yeah, and then we'll use that as momentum. I love that. That's a great idea, Kenneth. Thank you so much for suggesting that.
Yeah, I'm not going to charge you as your consultant, okay?
Right? Yeah, I need to open a new position for you. I love it. Well, I'll tell you what, I've had an influx of people from from one of the support groups that I think that you had made a post about me. So I appreciate that a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they've been showing up.
Okay. Well, thank you. Your time over there, your free time being well spent, everything going good?
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. I'm gonna go back next week for about 12 days and surprise my dad for Father's Day.
Oh, great.
So he doesn't know it yet. He thinks I'm not coming home till like August, but I'm gonna go back and surprise him because I was like, you know what, I'm missing him, and I'm sure he's lonely at home right now. He's going on a road trip in July, but he hasn't gone yet, so he's just at him at my house. So I'm gonna go show up next week and bug him.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Y'all have fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And you have a good week ahead, Karen. And yeah, just I want you to hear it over and over again. I'm proud of you. Kenneth's proud of you. And I'm glad you're proud of yourself. Let's keep going, okay?
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, guys. I'll see you next Sunday.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.